budgeting. So dark budget, sunrise budget, sunset budget. Can it happen that the same budget can be sunrise budget and sunset budget? Yes, because some schemes are being closed and the new scheme is released in the same budget. Then that is called as sunrise budget, sunset budget. Karnataka government guaranteed something before the elections. Not TRS. Congress government guaranteed some schemes. ఏదో పథకాలు గ్యారంటీ ఇచ్చారు కదా, మహాలక్ష్మి సో ఇంటింటికి సిలిండర్లు ఫ్రీయా సబ్సిడైజ్డా? సో
వాయిస్ వస్తుందా? చూస్తుంది. ఫైనల్ okay, so we have seen leader of house and leader of opposition, right? So these are not there in the constitution did not provide, but rules of the house, okay, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, they have provided. And in the beginning we don't have any statutory status to leader of opposition, but from 1977 only we started creating statutory status. That means the leader of opposition also will draw the same salary like the cabinet minister. He is having a cabinet rank, okay. So whatever the benefits that cabinet person receives, the same thing will be given to the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay. Then this was taken from the Britain, shadow cabinet concept we have discussed in the morning session, right? Okay, where the leader of opposition will be like running a shadow cabinet, and in USA we call this as minority leader, the same leader of opposition. Okay. What is important here is it is not mentioned in the constitution. They can trap you there. And now it is having statutory status. These are the things you have to focus upon. Then whip. Okay. Then whip means, what is whip?
Everyone in the party has to come in.
It's like a code for the party workers, right? So every party, irrespective of the ruling party or opposition, any party can issue whip. Okay. When they can issue a whip? When they're voting, when they're talking, or when they have to decide upon something, they can issue whip. Whip, once if it is issued, what happens? One person will be designated as official whip of the party. So then what is the role that the person have to take care? He has to ensure that on the particular day, the party's decision has to be implemented in the house. Like for example, if they want to vote against the bill, he has to instruct all the members of that particular party to come on that day, and they have to vote in against that particular bill. Like that, whatever the party command is there, that is getting reflected through this whip. Okay. In case if you don't follow the whip, what happens? It is a ground for disqualification under anti-defection that we have seen. No, if you vote against the party's decision, or if you abstain from voting also without prior permission. If you take prior permission citing your reasons of health and all, that is okay. If party gives permission, that is fine. But if you, without informing the party, if you abstain from voting on important day, then party decision may be overthrown, right? So it may lose the decision in the particular issue. That is why this whip is a concept. Okay. What you have to keep in mind is this is not mentioned in the constitution nor in the rules of the house. This is just based on the conventions. Convention means what we are practicing from long. Okay. There's nothing as such in a constitutional mechanism. So leader of house and leader of opposition, not in the constitution, but rules of the house. But whip is not there even in the rules also. It is just a convention. As a practice, we are following this system. So he is like an assistant floor leader. Okay. So one official whip will be there. To assist him, number of whips also can be there. Okay. Then he is appointed by the political party. This is most important thing. Every party can have a whip. Understand these things. Then presiding officers. Now we'll look into details about the presiding officers. Who is a presiding officer? Who is presiding the house? That means in the Lok Sabha, who can be the presiding officer? Speaker or deputy speaker. In their absence, a panel of presiding officers or panel of speakers also can be there. So what is most important thing is here, one second, before we proceed further, one thing I just got out of mind is how vacancy can cause in the house. In which situations vacancy can be there? Yes? Okay. When you're resigning, resignation, then death. Okay. Then
Not taking work in the physical time.
okay. So within the time, if you don't take every day, if you sit in the house, 500 rupees fine will be imposed. Very huge amount. Then
Remove.
Removed by the speaker. On grounds of violating the rules of.
okay. Can person be removed by the speaker from the house? He can be expelled or suspended, but he cannot be removed. He can be disqualified. Yes or no? Disqualified. And
If that person takes any
other post you are saying.
no, not post. If he takes passport of citizenship of other country.
Okay, like loss of citizenship. Loss of citizenship is a disqualification by the constitution itself, no? Citizen status and all. So what happens in case if he has double membership also, it may lead to vacancy. In what situations it can lead to double membership is what you have to keep in mind. Okay, so there are some situations where, for example, if they get elected to 2 houses, then what they have to do? Within 10 days of their election, they have to inform to the presiding officer in which house they wanted to retain their membership. If they don't say their membership, then what happens?
His membership in the newly elected house will be.
It will remain and the first membership will wipe off. Okay. In case if he gets elected to MP means Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and MLA also, then what happens? See the case with Danam Nagendra Rayes, right? From the Congress. He got already elected as MLA. But now being an MLA, he contested as MP. Here Office of Profit is not working out because they are getting exemption under Office of Profit. Okay. Then if he becomes MP by being an MLA, then what happens? This will remain. So initially 14 days time will be given to this person from the election of getting elected as MP. In this he has to choose one. In case if he doesn't say anything, then this will retain, this will go off. That means this will become vacant. Okay. Then here if in case if they are member of Lok Sabha and if they then become the member of Rajya Sabha, then what happens? See, in case if they don't say in 10 days of time, both seats become vacant. I'm saying here not the seats but 2 houses. At the same time he got elected. For example, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, in case if there are same time elections, simultaneous elections, and if they got elected to 2 houses at the same time, if they don't say their choice in 10 days, then both of the house seats gets vacated. Okay. Then in this case, he is a member of Lok Sabha, but he contested for Rajya Sabha. Or if he is a member of Rajya Sabha, then he contested for Lok Sabha. Then what can be the thing?
The old house.
That is what, no? When already they're having membership, if they're fighting and they're winning in the next particular house means they have been not satisfied with respect to this. So the second house where they got recently elected will remain and the first house will vacate. Okay. And in case if they contest for 2 seats in the same house, for example, we have many persons, no?
Yes. Rahul Gandhi,
Rahul Gandhi, Modi, now Varanasi. Previously, he contested from Vadodara and Varanasi. Even KCR also he contested from Gazwel and another constituency also, no? That where Revant Reddy and KCR, Kodangal, right? Kodangal also? Kamareddy, I guess. Yes, Kamareddy, I guess. So when they're fighting for the same assembly but from 2 different seats, then what happened?
they can retain one and they can yes, to
In case if they don't say anything, both will get vacated. Okay. So in this, how vacancy can occur in the house. Okay. So death, resignation in case they don't follow the oath and all, or disqualification in members.
It's also 14 days or 10 days.
Only for these two situations only there is 10 days and 14 days mentioned. Okay. Normally they have to decide on one thing, otherwise there is no time limit here. Then coming to the speakers and presiding officers. So what is the origin of this presiding officer? From which time we are having this in practice? Right after 1950 only. Yes. 1919 Montague-Chelmsford reforms. Okay. So from Montague-Chelmsford reforms we have this first one. And who is the first Indian speaker to be elected? Yesterday only I told you. Vital Bhai Patel. That is the majority. That is a major victory of moderates, especially Swarajis. Okay. So then, so 1919 Montague-Chelmsford reforms has given way for this first one. So then, Lok Sabha speaker. But before him, who is going to decide the date of election of the speaker? How is the speaker getting elected? Who is electing him?
Members direct.
From the house itself, the members. Speaker of the Lok Sabha is also one of the member of the Lok Sabha. Okay. So from the members itself, one person gets elected as the. That means whoever the party in power proposes, that person automatically become, because normally they enjoy majority. But the date of election of the speaker office will be chosen by the President of India. But before that, what he has to do? It's not, see, immediately after Lok Sabha elections, we are going to have 18th Lok Sabha results. No? So immediately what happens? On June 4th, if the result comes, what is the timeline? How the sequence of events happen? First is, after who got majority, the party will elect some person as a head of the legislature, so that that person becomes a prime minister. Then what happens? Prime minister will take the oath by the President of India. Then he will recommend some council of ministers. Whenever the prime minister and council of ministers gets appointed, then what happens? Then they will decide in date on which the particular parliament or assembly has to sit for the first sitting. Why? It's not the prerogative of the speaker or the president of India. Who is calling the houses for sitting all the time? Summoning the houses. President of India, governor at the state level. So it is not their own discretionary power. Okay. So there are only 4 or 5 situations where they have to act in discretion. But most of the situations they have to work within the limits only, which is the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. So after the first sitting, when the cabinet is formed, so whether it is full cabinet or vacant cabinet also, they will recommend that this is the first date of the sitting of the parliament. On that date, what happens? All the newly elected MPs, they have to come, and among them, one of the person who is a senior most person will be chosen as the speaker pro tem. Okay, eldest person normally will be chosen. What is the job of this person? He has to administer oath to all the members. Okay, the newly elected members, because by that time we don't have speaker. The previous speaker will continue till this particular session, but he doesn't have the authority to command this session. Okay, so he'll continue, and speaker pro tem will come to authority, and he'll have all the powers at that time. Whenever 1 day or 2 days, how much time they take, entire powers of the speaker will be with the speaker pro tem. What is the job? He has to administer oath to the persons, okay, newly elected persons. Then this person is also appointed by the President of India. The date and all will be chosen. So immediately after administering oath, and he'll facilitate the election of speaker. After getting oath, okay, what the persons have to do? They have to decide who is the speaker, and they have to elect the speaker. Immediately after the speaker getting elected, the speaker pro tem will cease to operate. It can be 1 day or 2 day office only. In this way, the speaker's election date will be decided by the President of India. Okay. Deputy speaker's election date will be decided by speaker. Okay. Deputy speaker is also same like speaker. From the members only they will elect. But there is no constitutional setup with respect to this, that this party only have to be the speaker and all like this. So we are following as a convention. Right from 1960s and 70s, we started giving this deputy speaker post to the opposition. There is no such thing mentioned in the constitution. Okay, as it is only a convention. Understand? Okay, speaker normally comes from the ruling party, deputy speaker comes from the opposition as a matter of convention only. Okay, practice. You're doing this, right? Not from the beginning. Then, speaker is the leader of the entire house. So everything within the house, he have the authority. So what are the sources for the power of the authority of the speaker? One is constitution. Second is rules of that particular house, rules of procedure in that house. Third one, conventions, parliamentary conventions. Normally these three things will be the source of authority for the presiding officer. Then what are his powers and functions? See, he will normally take the oath as a member of Lok Sabha. That only is the oath. There won't be any oath of office to the speaker. Understood? Separately, he doesn't administer any oath as a speaker or deputy speaker. Only as a Lok Sabha member, they'll administer oath. By the speaker pro tem, the same oath only will be there, but he has to get elected from the Lok Sabha. That's it. Okay? Then,
Adjournment motion, these things will be passed.
You will appoint the committees, chairmen of the committees, some of
he'll appoint chairmen of the committee. That is the first job.
Take care of members.
Take care about the members. Yes?
will ensure the ethical and moral conduct of the members.
Hmm. He has to maintain order and decorum of the house. That is the first main job. Okay, maintaining the order and decorum of the house. Then
I'm second motions like adjournment motion. And,
with respect to bills and with respect to motions and everything that happens in the house, he has to ensure that everything is going according with the constitution. Then he can decide with respect to money bills. He can preside joint session. He can decide with respect to disqualifications. He can also call for secret sitting in case if it is required. So recently one state assembly has gone for secret sitting. Recently means not in the very recent, 2-3 years back. With state assembly. Secret sitting. You know what is secret sitting?
not live telecast will be done.
Hmm. Normally when parliamentary proceedings are going on, you can watch, okay, with some authorized permissions and all. But in case of secret sitting is allowed, no strangers will be allowed into the proceedings of the house. Complete closed door sitting, you can say. Then recently it happened in Chhattisgarh assembly. Okay, secret sitting. Then
10 years back, AP Reorganization Act.
the sprays and all, pepper spray. Absurd. It's very famous in Indian democracy. Yes. Then
He is the final authority in the premises of the house.
with respect to any decision, he is the final authority. Then what are the powers of the speaker?
Appointment of the Lok Sabha Secretary.
He'll monitor and administer Lok Sabha Secretariat. Then he appoints the members to the parliamentary committees. He himself will head 3 committees. What are those 3 committees? Business Advisory Committee, General Purpose Committee, and Rules Committee. These 3 committees by default will be headed by the speaker. Okay. What is the job of Business Advisory Council or committee?
Agenda duration.
When they have to sit, when they have to end the session, how much they have to run, all these things. BSc will have representation from all the members. Okay, so when the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers decide we are going to call for the Parliament, they'll take the consultation opinions of other parties in the BSc meeting, which will be presided by the Speaker. Then what is General Purpose Committee? General. Okay, general purpose means what is the demand of the houses and all. The basic things will be taken care. Then rules committee with respect to rules of the house. So these are the 3 committees which default will be headed by the speaker. Then is the speaker's post in India independent? Did the constitution want him to perform the functions partially or impartially or neutrally?
Neutral.
Yes, right? is there any backup they have provided? Like these are the certain measures which want to ensure there will be impartiality.
Usually, speaker should be from opposition.
There is nothing as
There,
such.
but
If it is there, it would be good, you're saying, huh? So I'm not asking that. I'm asking with respect to independence, did Constitution provide any of the provisions to maintain his post independently or neutrally? They are there. He's provided with security of tenure. He cannot be removed easily by the House, right? Yes or no? He can be removed only with effective majority, right? So he has security of tenure. He cannot be removed easily. If he has to be removed, what is the procedure? He has to be given 14 days notice and at least 50 members have to support that motion. Okay? Then at that time, he has the right to participate in the proceedings of the House, but he cannot preside the House because itself is taking the removal of the speaker, no? So some other person like deputy speaker will preside. He can sit like other member and he can also vote. Here, he can vote in the very first instance whenever the removal motion is taken up. But normally, when he's presiding the House, he cannot vote in the first instance only. Whenever there is a need, when there is a tie and all, only casting vote can be done. But when there is a removal, and if the votes are tied, then he cannot choose the casting vote. Like any other member, he can vote in the very first instance. Okay. So this, Lok Sabha has to approve with that majority, effective majority. Okay. So that is what we have. Then with respect to removal,
does he have effective majority or not? Special majority.
special majority. That means the present and voting, and you have to take the majority of the House present. Yes. Okay. Absolute. Then what is another thing? In one clarification, I just want to mention is, see, two things are there: absence and vacancy. Okay. So in case if the speaker's post is vacant, what happens?
Election.
Not election from the House, another person have to be elected as a speaker. Okay. In case of the absency, okay, who have to preside? Immediately deputy speaker. In case if this person is also absent, then yes, here panel of speakers will be there, no, presiding officers. Who will be these persons? From the House only 10 members or some persons will be chosen as the panel of the presiding officers by the speaker. Okay, so they will be kept as reserve. In case if these two are absent because of some reasons, then any of these from the panel will be heading and the presiding the office in absence only. But in case of vacancy, like for example, if the speaker post is vacant, deputy speaker post is also vacant, and you have to go for electing the member, no? But in the meantime, if you have to organize a particular session, then there is a discussion with the president. President can appoint any member from the House as the time being speaker for filling that vacancy of the speaker. So here, do remember this panel will serve only when there is absence of post of the speaker and deputy speaker. Okay. Then another thing which is ensuring his independence is he is getting paid out of Consolidated Fund of India. You know, whenever it is charged out of consolidated fund and when it is made out of consolidated fund, there is difference. What is expenditure charged out and made out?
Difference of voting.
How? Which expenditure can be voted and discussed?
Made.
Made expenditure. Charged expenditure? It can be discussed, but it cannot be voted upon because whoever has to function independently according to the constitution, they are being charged out of Consolidated Fund of India. That means their particular proceedings or the what are the money they're getting paid, that will be discussed, but it cannot be voted upon. In case if you're voting, then you know what happens. You cannot ensure the neutrality, no? If the House is blocking, they'll think about the pay and they don't perform independently. That is why some posts are given this Consolidated Fund of India charged expenditure. Okay, this is another provision. Then what are the other powers and functions? He'll be heading the Indian parliamentary delegation in the international parliamentary forums and all. Then he has the power to adjourn the sessions, sign, die, and what are the other powers he have?
Censure.
Censure. So with respect to motions also, he has the authority to decide. I'm asking with respect to the sessions. Who will decide when to sit and where to sit? President of India. See, it's not mandatory that you have to sit in the Parliament House only. President, if he thinks any other place also is fit for parliamentary proceedings, that also can be a location. There is no rigid thing in the constitution. Okay, then okay, let's look into these things. Then we'll see. Lok Sabha Speaker, I told you from the elected members only, elected by the House itself. He's a member of the House. Membership at the time of election, like a common member only, he'll administer his oath. Then the date of election will be fixed by the president. Deputy speakers will be fixed by speaker. Okay, equivalent to CJ, seventh in rank. Okay, he's above all the cabinet ministers except prime minister and the deputy prime minister if you have anyone. Otherwise, above all the ministers, he is having seventh rank of presidents, which is equal to CJ. So these type of questions also can be expected. Then requirement of resignation, I told you, it is not mandatory for us, the Indian speaker, to resign whenever he is chosen as a speaker, but he normally has to maintain distance from the political party and its functioning. Then removal we have discussed. So with respect to removal, once if he is removed, then what we'll say? Whether it is removal or impeachment. Removal only. Only for president you have to use impeachment. Okay. Then recently also, if you have remembered this removal motion they tried to initiate. Okay. Removal. You have to use removal only. That is why I asked. Okay. Only for president you have to use impeachment. Removal only. Then can he participate in votings of proceed in the proceedings of his removal? He can participate and he can also vote in the first instance itself, but he cannot preside the house. Then resignation to whom he'll give? Deputy speaker. Okay, he'll resign to the deputy speaker. Do remember this. And continuation of speaker, he'll also continue in office after the Lok Sabha gets dissolved. For example, now 17th Lok Sabha got dissolved. He'll continue till 18th Lok Sabha will sit in the first session. Till then, he'll continue in power. Did you understand? The very first session of 18th Lok Sabha, newly elected persons, I told you the speaker pro tem will be there to administer oath. Till then, he'll be as the speaker. Okay. Same the case with the president also. Then Lok Sabha speaker, deputy speaker, elected by the same house from the members only. The same thing we have borrowed. Then here the date of election is fixed by the speaker, their president. Then when appointed to parliamentary committees, he'll enjoy a special privilege. The deputy speaker has a special privilege or right whenever he becomes member of any of the parliamentary committees. Then by default, he'll become the chairman. Okay. So when these three committees, except these three committees, we have other committees, no? Okay. For any other committee, if any person, this deputy speaker is appointed, he defaultly becomes the chairman. That is a special right. And removal procedure, same like speaker only. Okay. Because he is also a member of the house, 14 days notice, he can be removed. Okay. He can vote in the first instance, but he cannot participate and preside. Then he's not a subordinate to the speaker. This is what you have to keep in mind. Okay. He's directly responsible to the house. He's not subordinate to the speaker. It is an independent constitutional body. Then he's directly responsible to the house. Salary and allowances, I told you, Consolidated Fund of India, both speakers and deputy speakers. So salaries means they're mentioned in the second schedule of Indian Constitution, along with chairman and deputy chairman salaries. Then he submits resignation to the Speaker of India. Okay, this is what you have to keep in mind. Then panel of chairpersons, I told you. This is strength means how much is the strength that will be decided by the Speaker. It's choice. Okay, minimum 10 will. Mode of appointment, Speaker will make it. In case of absency only, this panel will preside. In case of vacancy, it is the President's choice to choose a member from the House. Then Speaker pro tem we have decided already. Okay, first sitting appointed by President of India, oath also by President of India only, because there is no Speaker now. And powers, all powers like a Speaker only they'll have, and mentioned in the Constitution, yes, it is mentioned. Then main duty is to administer oath to the first sitting of the newly elected Lok Sabha till the Speaker, and also he has to facilitate the Speaker's election. Okay, then if you have seen, all these offices have origins in 1919 Government of India Act or Montague-Chelmsford reforms. This person, Frederick White, is the first Speaker, but we don't consider him. First Indian Speaker is Vijayabhai Patel. Okay, then Sachidananda Sinha is the first Deputy Speaker. Vijayabhai Patel, first elected Indian Speaker in 1925. These are the persons, G.V. Maulankar and Ananta Swami Iyengar. These are the first speakers and deputy speaker after independence. Okay, so who is the current speaker of Lok Sabha? Om Birla. Okay, then sources of power we discussed: Constitution, parliamentary, conventions, and rules of procedure. Then he is a guardian of powers within the House. Privileges of members has to be upheld by this person only. And House and its committees also, I told you. He will be defaultly heading 3 committees and he'll maintain the order and decorum of the House. Disqualification and defection will be decided, joint sitting and casting vote and voting in first instance. This is normally when he's presiding. This is at the time of removal. Okay, and he also decides with respect to money bill, and in case of special session also he will be presiding when we want to revoke this. And I told you with respect to secret sitting of the House. So these are the powers and functions normally the Speaker have. Then presiding officers of Rajya Sabha. So one main thing you have to keep in mind is the Speaker and Deputy Speaker and Deputy Chairman are from the House. Chairman of Rajya Sabha is not having any membership in Rajya Sabha. Chairman of Rajya Sabha, who is the Vice President, doesn't have any membership in Rajya Sabha. Speaker have, Deputy Speaker have, and Deputy Chairman have. That is why in any instance this person cannot vote. When he is not a member, how he have this power to vote? Yes or no? Normally, you see sometimes ministers from the Lok Sabha also, they will appear in Rajya Sabha and they'll discuss and they'll answer. That is the privilege they have, along with Attorney General. Although they're not the members of that particular house, they can participate and they can answer on behalf of the government because they're part of the Council of Ministers. But in which house they have membership, there only they can vote. For example, if Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the member of Lok Sabha, right? Does that mean only in Lok Sabha he has to participate? In case if there is a discussion going on in Rajya Sabha and Rajya Sabha members are asking some questions, then the Prime Minister can also participate in the proceedings of Rajya Sabha. He can sit, he can participate and he can also answer to the questions, but he cannot vote in Rajya Sabha. Same with other ministers also and Attorney General. You know, Attorney General doesn't have membership in any of the house, but he cannot vote in any house. Ministers, in which house they have membership, there they can vote. Okay. Why I'm telling this is because here also this person doesn't have any voting rights because he's not a member of any house. Then Deputy Chairman also, as this person, you know how he's elected? One of the person nominated by party, again election will be there, and you know how the Vice President gets elected? Electoral college consisting of elected members as well as nominated members. Here state assembly members will not participate. This is what you have to keep in mind. Deputy Chairman is also elected from the members only, but this person is not elected. Then panel of Vice Chairmen nominated by Chairman. Here there won't be any pro tem because there is no dissolution of the house, right? It is continuing house. So some members are there, some members are getting retired. That is why there won't be any pro tem chairman. Okay. These type of things also UPSC can ask. Pro tem chairman అని ఇచ్చేసి వాళ్ళ స్టేట్మెంట్ ఇస్తే మనం pro tem స్పీకర్ ఉంది కదా అని ఆ టైంలో ఆలోచించుకుందాం బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ లో చేస్తే కనుక ఇట్ విల్ గో రాంగ్. Then sessions of the parliament. Okay, from here most of the questions can come. What is a session? The maximum time in which the house sits for proceedings is called the session. So how many sessions are there in Indian Parliament? 3 sessions. Did Constitution stipulate 3 sessions? No. That is what we are practicing as a convention. What are the 3 sessions? Budget session, monsoon session, winter session. Which is the longest one? Budget session usually, because after some recess gap, again they'll sit for the second time and they'll proceed. No, so that is the largest one, longest one I mean. So then budget session is the first session in every financial year and general year also. What happens? So there is only one thing mentioned by the constitution is there should not be maximum gap greater than 6 months between each sitting of the or each session of the parliament. That is only what mentioned. That means in a year, minimum 2 times they have to sit. Maximum, there is no limit again. Okay, it depends on the government's choice. Then, what is the term called recess?
Session, the house is not in session.
Yes. So what happens when a budget is introduced? You know, on the day when budget is introduced, on the day finance minister will deliver the speech. Immediately after 2-3 days, there will be some discussions and house will be adjourned. It's not adjourned sign day. Adjourned sign day means without specifying a specific date, you are ending the session. That means you don't know when you will be called. That means it is ending that session only. Adjourned means there can be a session. It can be next day or it can be after 2 hours or it even can be after a week. So what happens? Whenever after some discussion after budget introduced in 2 days or 1 day, they'll give adjournment. Adjournment means the houses get adjourned. In the meantime, what happens? Departmental committees have to look into and they'll scrutinize the budget. So in the meantime, almost for 2-3 weeks there will be gap. That gap again for the next no, it's not the session that is changing, but sitting is getting changed. Okay, so this gap between that ending and this again starting is called recess. Okay, of the house. Then what is the maximum gap? I told you 6 months is the maximum gap between 2 sessions of a house. Then who have the authority to summon? It is the President of India, and it is on the aid of Council of Ministers only. It is not his discretion. He has to rely on the choice of the Council of Ministers, even with respect to normal proceedings or when he's calling the floor test also, it is on the decision only. That is why if you have seen in Nabam Rabia case, what happened? Arunachal Pradesh Assembly case. Are you aware of this? It is very important here to write about the governor and this flow test concept. That is the landmark case you have to quote. See that person, Arunachal Pradesh Chief Minister, there are some allegations that he lost his majority. Then what the governor have to do? Should he adhere to those allegations and remove the persons? Initially, he has to give an option of conducting the floor test and he has to check whether this person is actually having majority or not. So then what happened? The person who is the chief minister on whom the allegations were made were like this person is the chief minister, no? So he decided that let's convene on 6th March. I'm giving as an example. Okay, on 6th March, you conduct a floor test. But what this actual governor have done, instead of conducting on 6th March, he conducted it on 4th March, by which the government has lost majority. So this CM who was displaced, he went to the Supreme Court asking that this is on the aid and advice of Council of Ministers. I suggested 6th March, but he has chosen it and he advanced it, preponed it. Then this is not at all fair. This is not at all fair. So please reinstate. Then the Supreme Court in this particular case observed that it is not his own discretion. That means it is with respect to governor. It is not his own discretion. He has to listen according to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers and reinstated the same person. Because governor did not adhere to the aid and advice. That is what you have to understand. Only in very less situations he have discretion, in 4-5 situations. Except in all those situations, he has to listen to the aid and advice. Okay. Here also, in case if the house is getting summoned, who is deciding the date? It is the government in consultation with Business Advisory Council. Okay. Business Advisory Committee. Then adjournment who can do? Speaker. It is the presiding officer. That means the speaker or the chairman. Then who can adjourn? Sign die. Sign die. Sign die and adjournment, what is the difference? Here, there will be timeline when again the house will meet. Here, without specific date, if you are continuously closing the session of the house, that means it is like a closure only of that particular session. Once if this is given by the presiding officer, then president will give a call for prorogation because it is the president who call the houses for summoning, no? For sitting. So after adjourning signed day, immediately President can issue the houses for prorogation. That means he can end the session. This can be done in many ways. Prorogation. For example, after adjournment signed day, he can do it. Or even when the house is in session also, without adjourning signed day also, President can go for prorogation. Okay? This is what you have to keep in mind. And here, whatever the decision, for example, in case of dissolution of the house happened, okay, Lok Sabha especially. So once if he issues an order for dissolution of Lok Sabha, he cannot revoke the decision, President of India. That is what you have to keep in mind, okay? So you cannot take back the decision and I cannot say tooch. He has to follow. No, there is no particular thing. Once if he is issuing dissolution, that house gets dissolved, fresh elections have to be conducted to Lok Sabha. Okay. So prorogation means I told you, even while the house is in session also, president can prorogue. That is what you have to keep in mind, because normal things you know. Quorum means the minimum thing. Okay. In case the minimum attendance, for example, if no one is present, what I have to do? Have to look at the camera and teach. Yes or no? So same way, to conduct the proceedings of the house, at least some minimum attendance should be there. How much? 110. That means 54 or 55 in Parliament, Lok Sabha, and 25 in Rajya Sabha approximately. So in case if this quorum is not there, then who have the authority? Deciding officer have the authority to adjourn the house. It's not adjourn signed day. He can call for next day. That is what adjournment we call. Okay. Then with respect to dissolution. So this is the area where most of the people gets confused. In case if Lok Sabha is dissolved, because Rajya Sabha is a permanent chamber, then the types of bills which are there pending in the parliament may get lapsed. No? In what situations they get lapsed, in what situation they don't get lapsed is the area where questions can be asked. It is very simple. Only two things if you remember. In all other situations, you can easily remember it doesn't lapse. What are those situations? See, any bill pending in the Lok Sabha. Pending in Lok Sabha. That means it can originate in Lok Sabha or it can be passed by Rajya Sabha and sent to Lok Sabha. Any bill which is pending in Lok Sabha with dissolution gets lapsed. That is the first situation. Second, if Lok Sabha passes a bill and it is pending with Rajya Sabha. Okay? In these two situations, whatever the bill is, it will lapse with the dissolution of Lok Sabha. In all other situations, write it as don't lapse. Clear?
If it sends back to the upcoming Lok Sabha, reconsider chairman
రీకన్సిడరేషన్ ఎక్కడుంది? మనకి ప్రెసిడెంట్ పంపిస్తారు. నార్మల్ మనీ బిల్స్ కే ఉంటుంది అది, అవునా కాదా? He can just advise.
Yes.
See, what normally happens in ordinary bills, money, like except money bills, ordinary bills లో Lok Sabha pass చేసింది అనుకుందాం. If it sends for Rajya Sabha's consideration, what Rajya Sabha can do? It can pass it with some amendments. Yes or no? So that amendments have to be approved by Lok Sabha. Okay? That is where the first situation is falling down. Where I said it can be originated in Rajya Sabha but sent to Lok Sabha and it is pending in Lok Sabha. Yes or no? Pending for approval of amendments. In that situation also bill gets lapsed. Okay? Lapsed. In other situation, if the bill originated in Lok Sabha but passed here, but it is pending in Rajya Sabha, in that situation also it gets lapsed. Only these two you have to keep in mind. Clear?
If governor is not called,
Advice Council of Ministers ఇచ్చిన తర్వాత కూడా if they are not summoning, summoning కి పిలవకపోతే, that is a violation of constitution only.
old session continue అయిపోతుందా?
What they have done, that is what I am saying. అప్పుడు తమిళసై సౌందరరాజన్ కేసులో ఏం జరిగింది? హౌస్ ని ప్రొరాగ్ చేయలేదు వాళ్ళు. ప్రొరాగ్ చేసామంటే ఏంటి? ఆ సెషన్ ఎండ్ అయిపోయినట్టే. నువ్వు ప్రొరాగ్ చేయకపోతే ఏంటి? ఇప్పుడు నేను లైవ్ స్ట్రీమ్ ఎండ్ చేయకపోతే ఏమవుతుంది? కంటిన్యూ అవుతూనే ఉంటుంది. సేమ్ వే హౌస్ కూడా అక్కడ ప్రొరాగ్ అవ్వలేదు కాబట్టి వాళ్ళు గవర్నర్ ఏమన్నారు, నన్ను సమ్మన్ చేయాల్సి ఉంటుంది కదా అని. బట్ అసలు ముందు హౌస్ సెషన్ ఎండ్ అవ్వకపోతే మళ్ళీ కొత్త సెషన్ కి సమ్మన్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం ఏంటి అనేది గవర్నమెంట్ డిఫెన్స్ అన్నమాట. Okay? It's valid again because see, summoning, prorogation both are done by the persons like president and governor. That is again according to the guidance advice of the Council of Ministers. No, if you are not suggesting them to like prorogue or someone, then how the governor or president will take a decision there? They don't take normally, right? Yes or no? That is what normally happens. So if the Council of Ministers doesn't advise, they very well know, in case if the governors are troubling them, what they'll do? They don't ask for prorogation or summoning. Okay? So they can keep the house in session. While in session, see for example, ఇప్పుడు హౌస్ సెషన్ లో ఉన్నప్పుడు కౌన్సిల్ ఆఫ్ మినిస్టర్స్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ చేయమన్నారు అనుకుందాం, అప్పుడు చేయొచ్చు. ప్రొరోగేషన్ అయినా సమ్మనింగ్ అయినా ఇట్స్ నాట్ ద డిస్క్రిషనరీ పవర్. నేను 2 సిచ్యువేషన్స్ ఎప్పుడు చెప్పాను? అడ్జర్న్మెంట్ సైన్ డే అంటే గవర్నమెంట్ అనుకున్నట్టు మొత్తం ప్రొసీజర్ అయిపోయింది, స్పీకర్ అడ్జర్న్ సైన్ డే చేశారు, అప్పుడు ద ప్రెసిడెంట్ కెన్ ఇష్యూ ప్రొరోగేషన్. ఆర్ అదర్వైజ్ అసలు హౌస్ లో ఇప్పుడు కొన్నిసార్లు గొడవలు బాగా జరుగుతుంటాయి కదా, అసలు ఎలాంటి సిచ్యువేషన్ అంటే అపోజిషన్ ఏదన్నా క్రిటికల్ బిల్ ని అంటే నో కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ మోషన్ లేకపోతే సెన్షోర్ మోషన్స్ గవర్నమెంట్ ని లోవర్ చేసే విధంగా ఏదైనా స్టార్ట్ చేయబోతుందని తెలిసింది అనుకోండి, వాళ్ళు ఏం చేస్తారు? ప్రెసిడెంట్ కి ప్రొరోగ్ చేయమని ఆర్డర్ ఇవ్వచ్చు. అంటే హౌస్ సెషన్ లో ఉన్నప్పుడు కూడా స్పీకర్ అడ్జర్న్ సైన్ డే అని చెప్పకపోయినా కూడా దే కెన్ ఆస్క్ ఫర్ ప్రొరోగేషన్. ఇట్ ఈస్ అకార్డింగ్ టు ద ఎయిడెడ్ అడ్వైస్ ఓన్లీ. ఓకే. If a bill is pending in the Lok Sabha, this is one situation where already UPSC have asked a question. It is highly important. And second is, if a bill is passed by Lok Sabha and pending in Rajya Sabha, this is what you have to keep in mind. Passed by Lok Sabha and pending in Rajya Sabha. Here the situation is, it can originate in Lok Sabha or it can come from Rajya Sabha to Lok Sabha also. In these 2 situations, bill normally lapses with dissolution of the Lok Sabha. In all other situations, easily remember, it doesn't dissolute. Okay, it doesn't lapse. Then devices we'll see. Okay, number of things like question hour. First, immediately after the session, we'll have question hour. Question hour means it will start at 11 a.m. whenever the houses sit for the first time. Okay. So in this, what happens? 3 types of questions can be asked. One is start the question, unstart the question, and short notice question. What happens in start the question? You have to give oral answer. Ministers have to give oral answer. Oral answer, if it is given, then supplementary questions also can be followed, right? There is nothing you are giving in return. So after one question from your reply, another question can be posed. So in start the question, oral answer followed by supplementary questions will be given there. Okay. Unstarted question means reverse. When you are giving in return reply, when you are giving in return form, can supplementary questions come? That is why no supplementary questions. Short notice questions, when you want to discuss anything which is public importance issues or there, then you can issue short notice of 10 days, 15 days, and you can ask this type of questions. Okay. So these are the 3 types of questions which can be less than 10 days only, orally they'll answer. So these are the 3 types of questions which can be seen in question hour at 11 a.m. After immediately question hour, we have 0 hour. Okay. This 0 hour concept is Indian innovation. Okay. We don't find anywhere. So this is Indian innovation only. This is at 12 p.m. or noon. Exactly at 12 p.m. we have this 0 hour. So what happens in 0 hour? Anything can be there, okay, as a business of the house. Need not be the questions, any motions, resolutions, anything can be taken up in the 0 hour. So what are the nature of motions normally we have? These are substantive, substitute, and subsidiary. Substantive motion means which is having definite object. Substantive. Okay. So here it is self-contained, means the motion has some object to be achieved. For example, if the motion for removal of speaker, motion for removal of president of India, those are substantive, means they're having self-containedness in that particular thing. So such things we call substantive motions. Then substitute means, what is a substitute normally? When you're replacing something with another thing, that is called a substitute. So here, as the existing motion has some minus points, or you can say it is not self-complete, then in place of that you are substituting with another motion. That is what we call substitute motion. Then subsidiary motion. Subsidiary means that motion is okay, original motion, but you need to add some other things to that. Okay. But here what happens? You're replacing entire motion with new motion. That is what the difference. Substitute is you're replacing entirely. Subsidiary is where you're adding some other things to the existing motion. Okay. Substantive means a motion with definite objective. With respect to removals, we use substantive motions. Okay. Clear with this? Then types of motions. Other than these, normally we have different types of motions. So what is closure motion? When we want to cut short the debate in the house. Okay. It can be done in many ways. Simple closure, compartmental closure, kangaroo closure, guillotine closure. Like this, we have many types. What is simple closure? If any member of the house thinks that we have sufficiently discussed or we have discussed it enough. Okay. So let's vote upon it now. So then simple closure can be initiated. Then you have compartmental closure. Compartmental means in set of things you can ask for closure. Okay, not with respect to one thing. You can ask in compartments or you can keep it them in blockwise. Then kangaroo closure means kangaroo, how it leapfrogs. That means you only take up and you will discuss and debate only on important things. You will ignore all other things. That is kangaroo closure, how it normally jumps. Then guillotine closure means here certain things which you have discussed, along with which you are voting upon all other things also, which are undiscussed also. Here in kangaroo closure, you're discussing important things and you're ignoring non-important things. But here, after discussing certain things, you are also voting upon other things in toto. That is what we call as guillotine closure. Okay, entirely undiscussed things are also getting voted. That is what guillotine closure we have. Then what is privilege motion? This is also in use. We have parliamentary privileges for the ministers under Article 105 of Indian Constitution. Not only ministers, parliament members also. Okay, they have these privileges. I told you, Attorney General also have the parliamentary privilege. Okay, so what happens in case if you have committed any breach of privilege? If the House thinks that being a minister, he have done this breach to the House, what the House is giving. So parliamentary privileges are of two types. One is collective and individual privilege also we have. As a house, you have some rights, and individually also you have some rights. Okay, so in case if you think that this person have committed a breach of privilege, then you can initiate privilege motion. Okay, that is what the main object of this motion. Normally it will be used when minister committed a breach of privilege. Okay, everyone will be concerned only with the minister's right. That is why. Then calling attention motion. Calling attention means when you are about to discuss a matter of urgent public importance. Okay, then we call it as calling attention. Calling attention means when the House is discussing something. Normally, in case if, say for example, if Manipur violence is there, will the government want to take up that issue and discuss? The government on their own, will they think and they'll decide and take up that issue? No. Opposition wants to take up those issues. Government has some set of different issues, right? In that situation, House, in case if it decides that, okay, we have to think and we have to discuss about Manipur violence, which is an urgent public issue, then they can take up this by calling attention motion. Okay. So here, this is also an Indian innovation like 0R. But what is the difference here? This is mentioned in the rules of the House. 0R is not even in the rules of the House. Okay. Then adjournment motion. Adjournment means what? You are postponing the thing. That means already you are discussing certain thing that you are stopping and you are asking the House to take up some another thing which is very important. Okay. In calling attention motion, it need not be the case without disrupting something. So here it is interrupting the normal business of the House. That is what. And to initiate this, at least 50 members have to support. What is the difference between calling attention and adjournment? Is it clear? In calling attention, there may not be stoppage of the discussion. You are asking the House to take up some issue at the beginning only. But when the House is discussing something, if you want to stop it and if you want to take up new issue, then we have to use adjournment motion. At that time, it is not that easy. No, see, every member wants to take up some issues of their own. They think that this is important, this is important. Then when you're disrupting the House and its proceedings, at least 50 members have to support that. Yes, rather than this, we have to discuss about this, which is most important than that. That is why there is a requirement of 50 members. Normally, when this adjournment motion has to be initiated, it has to be only in Lok Sabha, because when they're deciding some matter of public importance, who have to be answerable? It is the government, right? That is why they only initiate this in Lok Sabha, not in Rajya Sabha. Okay. So whenever adjournment motion is passed, there is no obligation on the government to resign. But it will be like the House is disagreeing with the government. So that reflects that the government is not doing correct. But there is no compulsion here to resign. Then no confidence motion. This is most important motion, which is one of the tool where legislature is making the executive accountable and responsible, right? So no confidence motion is there under Article 75 Clause 3, where we have collective responsibility. There is no direct mention. Collective responsibility itself says no confidence. In case if it is having no confidence, you can remove the ministers from office. So what actually happens? It can be initiated against entire council of ministers only. You cannot say, I don't like this person, I will initiate only against him. Okay? You can ensure censure motion. Censure motion means when you want to criticize the performance of one person who is a minister in the cabinet, you can do it. Individually also you can censure him. But when you want to initiate no confidence motion, it has to be against entire council of ministers only. But another difference with no confidence and censure is, in censure motion, you need not, it is mandatory to state the reason why you are criticizing. See, before criticizing, in the House is listening to that comedy, you have to state the reasons, right? Yes or no? Why you are going to criticize, for what reason you are going to do this, that has to be informed, right? But in no confidence motion, if you have to say the reason, that is not fair also. Okay, so there is no need of saying the reasons, and it is mandatory for 50 members to support the no confidence motion. So again, when you are initiating the no confidence motion, it is up to the speaker to accept it or to reject it also, the presiding officer. Normally, because here only no confidence motion can be initiated again, like adjournment motion in Lok Sabha only. Adjournment motion, no confidence motion only in Lok Sabha. Again, another similarity is here 50-50 members support has to be there. Clear? Are you getting confused? Censure motion, I told you. It can be against individual or entire also. But no confidence, only entire ministers. Here you are just criticizing them. You are not saying we are not lacking confidence, but you are saying this person is not correct, criticizing. So reason has to be mentioned. But in no confidence, no need of reason. Then Council of Ministers need not resign. But in case if no confidence motion gets passed, then Council of Ministers has to resign. They don't have another option. It is no relation to non-confidence. I explained what is the difference and all. Okay. Then what is the motion of thanks? On two situations, the president will address the houses, right? What are those two situations? On the budget session of each year and after the general election, the first session. These are the two situations where the president will address the joint sitting of the parliament, right? In this sitting, what he'll do? He will read some speech which is given by the government saying that in the past we have achieved this and all, because he is the head of the executive, no? Yes or no? Although he's a nominal head or some de facto head or anything, but still he is the person on whose name the administration is going on. So what he'll do? My government has done this, and in future we wanted to do this. So I'm subjecting this to the approval of the House. He'll end that particular speech. Then what happens? The House has to vote on the motion of thanks. The motion of thanks means whatever the speech that is read by the President of India or the governor. So if in case if the motion of thanks is not voted upon, then what happens? That reflects that the House is not believing in the government. So in case if motion of thanks is not passed, government has to resign. Very important tool. In what situations government can be removed by parliament? By passing no confidence motion, by passing by not passing motion of confidence or no confidence motion, and by motion of thanks, and by passing token cuts also. We have cut motions. Okay, by passing cut motions also they can remove. So there are some measures. But what is most important is in the recent times this is also in news, because governor of Tamil Nadu, one of the retired bureaucrat, what he have done, he said, I'm not going to read what you have given. Does governor have that authority to refuse what the government is expecting to be read?
If it is seditious, not supporting if it is.
If it is seditious, then it is okay.
Divisive.
Yes. But if the speech is like with respect to political things, if they have difference of opinions, then there is no option for the governor, but he has to go with it. Because again, there is no discretion in this regard. He has to read the speech of the Council of Ministers because he is the person who is behind the running of the government. Okay, they cannot divide from them. That is what you have to keep in mind. So purpose, I told you, within which time, when they have to pass this motion of thanks, before closing of the session, right? Otherwise, it will be amounting the defeat of the government. So it will highlight the policies and programs of the government. In case if it not passed, government will resign. Clear? Then point of order. Yes. If budget is not passed also, they have to resign. 75 days, they have stipulated time limit also. Finance bill. Okay. So I'll explain that also. Then what is point of order? Point of order means you're raising that something is not going according to the constitutional provisions or according to the rules of the house. Okay, when you think speaker is not going according to the rules or he's not following constitutional things, or even if speaker has permitted someone unconstitutionally, okay, or he's not following the rules, then you can raise the point of order. That means you're calling the attention that this is not going according to the order of the house. That is what point of order is. Clear? It's a device to ensure discipline. When you're not going according to the, no debate will be allowed. Just you can raise the point of order and you can raise your objection that this is what the issue happening. Okay. Then this is what I told you. This is, we are going to discuss now bills. Okay. So you know how many types of bills we have? Ordinary bills, not this bills. Nature of bill.
Ordinary finance.
Ordinary, money bill, finance bill, constitutional amendment bill. 4 types we have. But among, based on the origin, we have public bill and private bill. So what is this difference? Public will be initiated by minister, any non-minister. Even if an MP belongs to the ruling party also, it is considered as private member bill only. It need not be from the opposition or other party. Even if the same government MP also, who is non-minister also, it will be a private member bill. Okay. So then what happens? You see here the difference in timeline. How many days it has to be initiated before notice has to be given to the speaker and all permission. 7 days for the public bill, 30 days for the private member bill. Then concerned department will help in formulating the bill, but here no assistance will be given because he's not the part of the government. Then any day can be there, but normally on alternate Fridays only private member bills will be initiated in the assembly. Speaker will give permission. So here absolute veto, does it exist for the president? Absolute veto. What is absolute veto?
I can reject it.
There is no option, no. So I see what they have done with respect to money bill. He doesn't have the idea to reject because with prior permission only they're initiating. What he can do? He can sit silent or he can ask for reconsideration. Money bill also. But in ordinary bill, in the first instance, they have sent to the president. President then said you have to reconsider. After reconsideration, what they have made an amendment which is not part of original constitution. In the second time, when after reconsideration, with or without amendment suggested by the president, if it is again sent to the president, he has to sign, even with respect to ordinary bill also. But in constitutional amendment bill, in the very first instance, he has to give. There is no other way. 24th Amendment, Indira Gandhi's time. So this is what. So it doesn't exist for the president. But here, veto power exists, right? Why? The government will press the button of the president, or you, that is private member bill against the government's policies, you don't give permission to that bill. Okay, because it was not introduced by the government. In this way, there are certain differences between public bill and private member bills. Clear?
ఏదైనా ఒక మేజర్ బిల్ పాస్ అయిన ప్రైవేట్ బిల్స్
14 bills got passed so far. 14 bills passed. I didn't recollect all the names, but there are 14 bills passed. That is why UPSC have asked a question: how many bills got passed? 3 joint sittings happened so far. 14 private member bills got passed. Okay, so this with respect to women reservation also, they started as a private member bill also, but it couldn't get. It is not that easy to get private member bill passed, right? Unless it is having wider concern and all. So whenever the person's part of the government also thinks it is okay for the, otherwise in the Lok Sabha it has to get, means majority of the members forms from the government only, no? That is why most of the times private member bills is not easy to get passed. Okay, so far only 14 got passed in Indian history. Then what is ordinary bill? Ordinary means which is non-money bill, which is non-financial bill, which is non-constitutional bill, other than this. Then what is ordinary bills? It can initiate in any house, Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, there is no prior recommendation of the president required. Yes or no? Then it can be initiated by minister or non-minister. It can be a public member bill or private member bill. Then, in case of a deadlock, joint sitting can be conducted between the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Then, afterwards, what the president have? In case he have three options here. One is giving the assent, withholding, then sending for reconsideration. So if he gives the assent, it becomes an act. If he withholds, pocket veto it will be. Then reconsideration, second time, as I told you, if with or without amendments, he has to give the signature. So that is what with respect to ordinary bill. So Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha have equal say. There is no differentiation in the ordinary bill. Then joint sitting. What is joint sitting? From which country we have taken this provision?
Australia.
Very good. Australian constitution, we have taken the provision. Australian constitution. What are the other things we have borrowed from Australia? Interstate commerce and trade, concurrent list, joint session, all these are the things we have taken from Australia. Okay. So you know, joint sitting under Article 108. Who has to summon for a joint sitting? President of India again. Okay. Always summoning President of India only. But who can preside joint sitting? Speaker. In his absence, Deputy Speaker. In his absence, Deputy Chairman. In his absence, any of the person decided by the President, but not Chairman of Rajya Sabha, because he himself is not a member. That is why Chairman of a Rajya Sabha never presides joint sitting. Okay, that is what you have to keep in mind. So he's presided. Who will preside is the President's order. I told you: Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Chair, Deputy Chairman, or any other member. Type of majority: simple majority, because in special majority, in what situations we require? In constitutional amendment bills. For those you don't have any concept of joint sitting. So what is the type of majority means? Only in ordinary bills we have the concept of joint sitting, and financial bills we have. So it is only with simple majority. In joint sitting it has to be passed. I don't know what is the ideology behind this, because Lok Sabha has larger say compared to Rajya Sabha, right? Then easily it will override the decision of Rajya Sabha, right? Even after calling for joint sitting. And then Lok Sabha can dominate, that is what I told you. Then governed by rules and proceedings of the Lok Sabha. This is most important. Okay, who is presiding? The Speaker. Here also they have exclusive privilege. And how the rules have to be there? When Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha combine, it is rules of Lok Sabha that will prevail. It's not the rule of Rajya Sabha. Okay. Then money bills. So what is money bill? Article 110 of Indian Constitution, which deals anything related to the money coming in and coming out of consolidated fund of India. Okay. So normally consolidated fund means, normally government's income and revenue, everything and expenditure also have to come from this only. Then what is a money bill? If government wants to propose any tax, or if it wants to alter, or if it wants to amend any tax, that particular thing, or if they do any borrowing, or if they take any money of consolidated fund, and you have, what is another fund? Contingency fund, or charged money of consolidated fund. All these expenditures will form part of money bill. Okay, under 110 they have clearly mentioned certain criteria. So with respect to money bill, it has to originate only Lok Sabha with prior permission of the President of India. And what happens? Who has to certify this as money bill? Speaker has to certify. Then once if it is passed in Lok Sabha, then what it has to do? It has to send it to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha can discuss, it can suggest some amendments, but it cannot vote on the money bill. So whatever the amendments that were suggested by Rajya Sabha will be again forwarded to Lok Sabha. In case within 14 days it doesn't say anything to the Lok Sabha, then the money bill is deemed to be passed by both the houses. But in case if whatever the amendments were suggested by Rajya Sabha, will the Lok Sabha accept or not is its choice. It can pass in the same way, or it can take the amendments also. Then when it is presented before the President, what are the options they have? He has options of giving assent and sending for reconsideration also, but he cannot withhold the assent or reject the money bill because it was introduced with his prior permission. Okay, this is what. And another thing you have to keep in mind is when this money bill, okay, in case if it is like what I thought of mentioning, just forgot it out of mind. Okay, so in case of this money bill, is there a deadlock? Then there is no provision of joint sitting. This is what you have to keep in mind. Okay. What else we have with respect to money bill?
Ma'am, does pocket veto comes in case of holidays?
No.
Any not?
No. You are only having the option of giving assent or sending for reconsideration. Then how pocket veto will come?
Time లేకపోతే స్టిపులేటెడ్ టైం లిమిట్ లేకపోతే అలా పెట్టుకుని కూర్చుంటాడు కదా ప్రెసిడెంట్.
ఓన్లీ 2 ఆప్షన్స్ ఉన్నాయి కదా మీకు, ఇక్కడ లేవు. ఆర్డినరీ బిల్లో పాకెట్ వీటో యూజ్ చేయొచ్చు. ఓకే, విత్ హోల్డింగ్ అంటే పాకెట్ వీటోనే కదా. మనీ బిల్లో యూ హ్యావ్ ఓన్లీ 2 ఆప్షన్స్, వన్ ఈస్ గివింగ్ అసెంట్ ఆర్ సెండింగ్ ఫర్ రీకన్సిడరేషన్. విత్ హోల్డ్ అనేది చేయకూడదు, ఎందుకంటే నీ పర్మిషన్ తీసుకునే కదా బిల్ ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేశారు.
రిజెక్ట్ చేయడం. I'm just sitting on it.
Withholding is what?
Absolutely pocket veto తేడా ఉంది.
అదే సార్ చెప్పండి, ఎలా అంటున్నారు మీరు?
ఏదైనా ఒక బిల్ వచ్చినప్పుడు ప్రెసిడెంట్ ఎస్ఎన్ కూడా నో అని ఇప్పుడు జస్ట్ అలా కూర్చొని
అలా మనీ బిల్ విషయంలో చేస్తే ఏమవుతుంది?
గవర్నమెంట్ ఫంక్షన్.
So it doesn't, that is why I'm saying pocket veto will not be exercised in money bills, because money bill pass avakapothe what will be the consequence? Government has to resign. That is why normally they don't exercise pocket veto here. Okay, then these are the criteria along with which the matters I told you that are not in the money bill also. Prior permission is important. Only in Lok Sabha, Speaker is the final authority to decide. And whenever the Speaker certifies any bill as money bill, it cannot be questioned in the courts. That is all what happened with respect to Aadhaar bill also. Yes or no? That is not actually money bill. But Speaker certification made it immune from judicial scrutiny. Then Rajya Sabha have very limited role. 14 days you have to keep in mind. Then President cannot send money bills. Okay, so this is cannot send for the reconsideration. They can withhold it. Then financial bills, 2 types we have. That is 117 clause 1 type 1 financial bill, 117 clause 3, 2 types of financial bills. So what is the difference between these two? Many students have confusion in this regard. It's very simple. See, financial bill 1, first I'm explaining the provisions, ingredients of it. Okay, so it can contain any of the provisions of money bill 1 or any. Okay, and it also contains provisions of general things. That means other things other than non-money bill issues. So if any of the provision of money bill along with some general provisions of legislation, if they're there, then we call it as financial bill type 1 under 117 clause 1. Okay, what is the only similarities with finance bill 1 and money bill? It also has to be introduced only in Lok Sabha and with prior permission of the president. Okay, but there is no major say here. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha individually they have to pass, and there is a provision of joint sitting also. Here president doesn't have any limitations in giving the assent and all. So this is what financial bill type 1. Then financial bill type 2, 117 clause 3. What is this? It should not contain any provisions of the money bill. Okay, but it may contain some provisions which are related to the expenditure out of consolidated fund. That means other than money bill provisions, if any expenditure is being done from the consolidated fund, then it will form part of financial bill type 2. Okay, so here these restrictions also which are there like money bill also will not be there. That means it can be initiated in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay, it is not requiring the prior permission of the president, and joint sitting can be done. All the options are there for the President of India. Clear now? Any confusion? This is what there. Okay, now tell me, fill this. Ordinary bill introduced in which house? Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha? Money bill? Lok Sabha only. Finance bill type 1? Lok Sabha only. Type 2? Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha? Constitutional amendment bill? Any house, right? Then introduced by here minister or private member. Here only minister can introduce, right? Here anyone, okay, minister or private member. It is like an ordinary only. Constitutional amendment bill? What? Anyone. ఇంత కన్ఫ్యూషన్ ఎందుకు వస్తుంది? Prior permission, is it required by the president? No, not required. Here? Here? Majority? Simple. Money bill? Questions వద్దమ్మా, సింపుల్. ఇక్కడ సింపుల్, ఇక్కడ సింపుల్. Here special. What is difference between simple and special? 50% plus 1 of present and voting. That is what we consider as simple majority. Special majority means 50% plus 1 present of voting and 2/3 of present and voting. Both have to be met. Then we call it as special majority. Okay. Then duration. How much is the maximum duration? 6 months. Okay, 6 months, 6 weeks to be precise. After that, what happens? Even if Rajya Sabha is delaying, okay, then Lok Sabha can pass this after that stipulated time. Okay, it will be deemed to be passed. Then here, 14 days from the date of passage in the Lok Sabha, that is the maximum time. Then here, there is no such thing. Okay, because there is a provision of joint sitting also can be applied. Here also, joint sitting also can be applied to resolve the deadlock. Here, there is no time gap, right? Because once if two houses, okay, there is no provision of joint sitting. Once if the two houses passes, then president has to give the thing. Joint sitting, yes, no. Here, yes, yes, no. Then status. Ordinary bill status ఎలా ఉంటుంది అంటే once if it is getting passed, like what are the, how I have to say, అంటే దాని నేచర్ ఎలా ఉంటుంది అని. What forms part of ordinary bill, ma? Other than 1, 2, 3, 4, no? That is what I'm saying, status. Finance, money bill, those criteria are there, no? Imposition of tax, alteration of tax, reduction of tax, charged expenditure, consolidated fund and all that I'm saying. Finance, this all you know, right? Okay. Then president can, what he can do here? He can give assent. He can he can ask for reconsideration or he can withhold or reject. Okay. Then here he has to, he can give or cannot reject. Then here same provisions like ordinary bill, no? Give, return for reconsideration. No, ordinary bill only, same like ordinary bill. Passage is same, provisions will be same. Introduction part only like money bill. Okay, don't get confused. Then here also same like ordinary bill. See, only these two things, prior permission of the president, these only will be matching with the financial bill type 1. But in passage, it will be like an ordinary bill. Okay, here has to give. Okay, there is no other option. Original constitution did not provide it. Do remember, 24th amendment made it mandatory. So then recommendation of president.
Money bill of prior recommendation.
ఇక్కడ prior permission. Recommendation ante I'm asking Returning for the recommendation, reconsideration. Ikkada undi. Ikkada money bill. Yes, no. He can ask for. Then here also yes. Here. This is what. Okay. We have quickly revised all the things. Then Article 117 Clause 2 is nothing but a provision of expenditure from India, Consolidated Fund of India, which are not there in money bill provisions and all. It's not so important. 117 Clause 3 is again financial bill type 2. Okay. Next we have is budget. Yes. Under Article 112 of Indian Constitution, we have budget, which we call as annual financial statement. The word budget is not mentioned in the Constitution. Okay. What is annual financial statement? Whatever the revenue and the expenditure of the government. Okay. If they have put in the fund form, we call it as a budget. Then, so what are the stages in budget? Budget is a which bill? Money bill or finance bill? Money bill only. Okay. So what are the stages in budget? Who will introduce? Who have to introduce?
There is no.
President of India has to lay down the budget before the House. On his behalf, finance minister is introducing. It is not the rule of the finance minister the job. It is the president who has to initiate. So actually finance minister will do, but on behalf of the president of India. Okay. Actually executive should be carried on by the executive or the president only, but in his name, some other members also can carry. Those are the list members. Then after introduction, general discussion. Then here only there will be some recess, gap will be given in the houses. Okay. What will be done? Very good. Departmental scrutiny. So departmental standing committees are there. No? How many committees we have? 24 committees. Initially 17. In 2003, 7 more were added. Okay. Departmental scrutiny will be done. Then voting on demand for grants. What is this? What is this demand for grants? This is exclusive privilege of Lok Sabha, I told you. In Rajya Sabha, you cannot vote the demand for grants. What is demand for grant? See, understand the concept first, then you will easily relate it. So normally, how many ministries will be there? For example, if 10 ministries are there, okay? These 10 ministries have their own need, no? They require certain amount of money. How much they want to be sanctioned in the budget, what they'll do? They'll prepare in advance and they'll ask before the budget preparation and all. The finance minister will have discussions with the ministries and private industries and all. What is good for the economy, they'll decide based on that. So what these persons, they'll prepare certain budget things, what they want. For example, if the person minister asks for 500, okay? This person is asking 1,000 rupees. Like this, there will be preparations. Okay, they will recommend these things to the finance minister. Okay, say accordingly also, so same thing was allocated by the finance minister. For example, instead of 1,000 here he has given 900, here 200, like this only they have given. Or they can decrease the amount also. This is what they're demanding, right? The ministers. But when it will be granted? When it was voted by the parliament. That means these will be presented in the budget. That this is what we are going to allocate to the ministry. But it is the choice of the parliament to whether go for the same amount or they can pass cut motion second, they can decrease. Say for example, if this 500 is there, but I'm not happy with this. So I asked the question to that particular minister that why you want 500 rupees? He said, I want to buy a pen. I thought buying a pen for 500 rupees is waste of money. Then what I can do? I can pass cut motions. That means I'm not okay with your policy decisions. I wanted to reduce the amount which is being granted to you. That is what what is the tool that the parliamentarians can use to the executive. Okay. Then what happens? Instead of 500, if 400 is given, that is one chance. Or they can reduce the amount by 100, or they can reduce it even to 1 rupee. Policy cut, economy cut, and token cut. Like this, we have cut motions. If these cut motions are passed, then also government has to resign. Okay, that means in case if they are asking this, and if there is some another amount which is being granted, okay, then we call voting on demand for grants. That means how much is the demand, how much is granted. That is what we call demand for grants. Okay, what they're asking, if it is granted upon voting, that is what we call demand for grants. But it need not be the same thing. If they pass cut motions and reduce the amount, then it is nothing but it is reflecting that the government, for what purpose they have asked, they're not believing in that purpose, and that amounts to lack of confidence only, so they have to resign. Clear? That is why this has to be initiated only in Lok Sabha. You cannot initiate it in Rajya Sabha. Then passing of appropriation bill. What is this appropriation bill? What is the difference? Passing of finance bill. This is the last stage. Okay. Once if this finance bill is passed, then only the entire enactment of budget will be completed. Okay. All this procedure has to be completed within 75 days from the introduction of budget. That is specified by a separate act. It was not there in the original constitution. Okay. Why? Because, again, if it is not given the time limit, the governments definitely will drag the sessions. Okay. And it is very much important because opposition also can drag the issue, and it may trouble the government by not releasing the money and all, right? That is why they have stipulated the time limit. Okay. Then what is the difference between appropriation bill and finance bill?
Maybe the demands which were made and the function will be granted.
See, simple one. Appropriation bill means whatever the money that is coming out of consolidated fund of India, that we call as appropriation bill. Okay. Appropriation bill means money coming out of consolidated fund. Here, this is expenditure part. Finance bill may include not only expenditure part but also income part. In budget, you will be showing how you have spent already, and you will also raise some proposals that how you wanted to generate revenue for the future, right? So this is the finance bill. Appropriation means it is relating to the expenditure. That means if government, from the date of budget, if they wanted to use some money, see, for government they require money, no? So how much ever the money they want, that money has to come from the consolidated fund only. Only once if this appropriation bill is passed, that means Parliament is giving, yes, we are approving that you want this money and we are approving it. That is what the meaning of appropriation bill. Clear? All these 6 stages have to be completed within 75 days of the budget. Okay? If budget is not passed, government has to resign. Okay? Budget has to be introduced only in the Lok Sabha. This is what you have to keep in mind. Okay? So we have seen here, budget consists of 2 types of expenditure. I told you what is this. Charged expenditure is non-votable. For the persons who have to be independent and neutral, we are paying charged expenditure. It can be discussed, but it cannot be voted. Made expenditure means which can be voted and which can be discussed. All other miscellaneous expenditure for day-to-day things and all, that is what we call appropriation bill. So it forms part of expenditure only, which is coming out of consolidated fund of India. Okay. Then what is finance bill? It consists of the revenue, how you are generating the revenue for the government, the proposals. So who will introduce the budget? I told you. And constitutional provisions we have seen. Okay. Then demand for grants are voted only in Lok Sabha, as I told you. Okay. Then cut motions can also be only introduced in Lok Sabha. When demand for grants are there, from that only we are cutting down. No? So it also has to be done in Lok Sabha. Charged expenditure can be discussed but cannot be voted. So you have these type of grants. In demand for grants, so what is supplementary grant? If you are granted only 100 rupees, okay, but that is not sufficient to continue that policy, then whatever the extra money you get, okay, that is what we consider as supplementary grant. Okay, so here what happens in additional grant is, this is with respect to same policy for running same program, whatever the money that was granted is not sufficient. But in additional grant, because of some change that was brought in the policy, because of some new changes that were brought, you have to require some additional things, additional money that we call as additional grant. Okay. Then excess grant means what happens? This is after the budget. In case if you are asked only to spend 100 rupees, but you have spent 150 rupees, then the 50 rupees excess you have spent, no, that also you have to show this. But before asking for excess grant, this that means after the budget is voted upon, for the next time they'll ask this. Okay, so we have spent this extra money, so you please authorize us, so that will be coming out of consolidated fund. But one criteria is here, you have to get the permission from the Public Accounts Committee. You know Public Accounts Committee? PAC is there, no, which will be chaired by opposition leader. So that what he's a friend and philosopher of CAG, no, that particular committee that will audit what is the account of the government. So they have to say that yes, this expenditure has happened. You know, because all the parliamentary committees, especially in revenue, what we have finance committees, they'll do postpartum work. That means after the money is used, they'll be examining. So this is also after the use only. You are spending more and you're asking at the later time to get that money back. That is excess grant. Token grant. I told you, token grant means if you are making it to 1 rupee, if you don't like the policy, okay? If you are making it only 1 rupee means you're giving it, but you're showing your displeasure, okay? Then vote on credit. Say this is like a blank check given to the executive. It is like a blank check without specifying the amount. If vote on credit is passed, that means how much ever the money they can withdraw. That can be done. But again, that also have to be audited by Controller and Auditor General and Public Accounts Committee. These are all the types of grants we have. Then funds. Okay. I'll take 5-10 minutes and I'll complete. Okay. I have another class at 2 o'clock. So funds. With respect to this, how many funds we have? Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund, and Public Accounts we have, right? 3 funds. So what is the difference between these 3? Consolidated fund means every money coming in and every money goes out for the government. Okay, that forms part of Consolidated Fund of India. Okay, even it be the government revenue or the borrowings or even the interest payments or all the expenditure expense. Then who have this authority? Who has to approve the money from consolidated fund? Very good, Parliament. Without the approval, that means what is the bill that has to be passed? Just now I told you. What is the type of bill that has to authorize CFI? Appropriation bill. So Parliament has to pass appropriation bill to withdraw money from Consolidated Fund of India. Okay, that is why. So not see whenever Parliament is a session only you can get the money. But suddenly if the government wants. That is why there is another mechanism in the form of contingency fund. Okay. In case of any extremity, disasters and all, we also require this contingency fund, emergency purposes. So some money will be kept in the hand of the President of India, like 500 crores or something. Okay. So this amount also will be determined by the Parliament only. So they can keep it in the hand of the President of India for emergency purpose. But on behalf of the President, who will do this? Finance Secretary. Okay. He will maintain this. Okay. Here, Parliament approval is mandatory. Without approval, you cannot take even 1 rupee also. But here, without the parliamentary approval, only you're taking the money in advance. But later, you have to show it to the Parliament that I have taken this much amount of money and have spent for this purpose. Okay. Then, what is public account?
Fees, fines.
All the savings accounts and all this. Okay. Other than this, normally, which the government is not actually doing anything and earning. For example, fees, fines, or any savings accounts, what we have like senior citizens and we have different schemes, no? All that money will be credited into public accounts. But what is this? Again, government has to pay back, okay, in the savings account and all. So who will be having custodian? Again, the President of India will be having the custodian and Finance Secretary will maintain. But here, parliamentary approval is not required. Okay. This is what you have to keep in mind.
Contingency account, the amount has been increased to 30,000.
30,000 crore. Okay. We'll discuss this also. Is it fine? Parliamentary privilege. Okay. Privilege is nothing but a special right. Already UPSC have asked this question. So absence of what is a privilege? Absence of restraint is a privilege, right? Restraint means when you're restraining someone. That means you're having more right. Absolute privilege. That is what special right we call as privilege. So like these type of basic terms also you need to know. What is the part of that particular terminology? So then what is parliamentary privilege? A special right given to the parliamentary members. It's not only given to parliamentary members, but other than parliamentary members also. For example, Attorney General. Okay, so these persons also have. And do remember, President being part of Parliament doesn't have parliamentary privilege. Okay, then who will enforce this? Speaker and Chairman. Okay, presiding officers. Two types we have. One is individual and collective. Individual means as a person what he's enjoying. For example, he cannot be arrested. Okay, 40 days before the session, 40 days after the session, and in respect of civil things only. In criminal aspects, he can be arrested, but with prior permission from the presiding officer. Then he cannot be he cannot be discussed, or he cannot be sentenced for what he discussed in the house. Whatever he discussed in the four walls of the house, for which he cannot be examined. Okay, so he has that privilege. That is why Article 105 and Article 19 1 year gets in contravention. So many cases we have where the principle of harmonious construction will be used by Supreme Courts. Okay, here whatever they say is under Article 105, but if the same thing is published by newspaper editors, they say it is our fundamental freedom of speech and expression. They say whatever we say in the parliament, that is our right, you cannot publish it. At the time, both are getting contravened, right? So at the time, Supreme Court will be using doctrine of harmonious construction, where they'll try to balance both without nullifying anything, because both are the provisions of same constitution and both are equally important. These are equally important to function without any fear and favor.
John Ritos, he commented about the session law. He talked about the selection of judges. He might publish his thing out.
Judicial things, like in Indian constitution, you know what happens?
Yeah, the way they are selecting judges.
That is what the drawback we have. No, nowhere in the other parts of the world judges are selecting themselves, and they don't have any reasons why they're suggesting these persons also. So there have been some need of reform in judiciary, but still they're not agreeing to it. For example, see, they're saying like political parties should come under RTA, but whether judiciary is under RTA, no. No, why they don't bring judiciary under RTA then? So we don't have questions for many questions. We don't have answers for these questions.
If the same thing is discussed outside the parliament, courts will contempt of court. Yes.
See, only when the judges are being removed. Okay, whenever the removal motion of the judges is initiated, at that time only the conduct of the judges can be discussed in the parliament. Other than this, any time you cannot discuss the conduct of judges within the parliament. If you violate, then it amounts to contempt of court and you can also be punished. So one major thing is, here you have under reasonable restrictions under 19 clause to contempt of court is also one restriction, right? So this is what. Then, like you have freedom of speech, right to publish also, okay? So these are some rights. And you know, this doesn't exist to president. And collective rights, as a house, they can enjoy, okay? Some rights like, they can prohibit unknown persons or strangers from sitting of the house, like this, okay? These are some rights, so types of privileges we have. Collective privilege I have given here. To publish the reports and debates and prohibit others also. When they have to allow, when they don't want to allow also, is their right only. Then it can regulate its proceedings and conduct. It can punish the people for privilege. No legal proceedings can be served without permission of the presiding officer. That is what I told you. Right to receive any information with respect to arrest also. Courts have prohibited to inquire into what happened within the walls of the parliament. Then individual privilege cannot be arrested during the sessions 40 days before, 40 days after, only in civil cases, okay? In criminal cases, with taking the permission of the speaker, they can do, okay? Then exempted from jury service. What is jury service? Exempted from being a witness in a particular case. When the parliamentary proceedings are going on, you cannot be asked to be a witness in one particular case, okay? Then you also have freedom of speech and no person will be liable for what he said in the court. Okay, this is with respect to members of parliament. Same under Article 194 will apply to members of state legislature. It also includes Advocate General, right? Answer these questions quick. We have completed most of the things. I'll check if any other things are not covered. Tomorrow we'll discuss, okay? A parliamentary system of government is one in which, what is the main criteria? See, this statement is chosen by the parliament but cannot be removed. So you eliminate this. Government is elected by the people, can be removed by them. We don't have direct democracy. Recall in Switzerland. All political parties in parliament are represented. That is why I'm saying, even if you are not sure about if you eliminate other options, you can arrive at the answer. Then consider the following statements. President of India can summon a session of parliament at a place as he thinks fit. That is what I mentioned, not necessarily in the parliament. Constitution of India provides for 3 sessions of the parliament in a year, but it is not mandated to conduct all 3.
No.
Yes. Okay, did not mention about 3 sessions. There is no minimum number of days that parliament is required to meet in a year.
There is a minimum. No.
Minimum times how many it has to. So there is no minimum is also correct, right? So what is the answer? You can eliminate 1 and 3. Sorry. Rajya Sabha has equal powers with Lok Sabha in amending the constitution. All India service, Rajya Sabha is exclusive. Removal of the government, Lok Sabha's prerogative. Making cut motions, Lok Sabha. Okay. Then, who among the following can attend the meetings of both houses of parliament while not being a member of either house? Attorney General and Advocate General at the state. Along with the budget, the finance minister also places other documents before the parliament that include microeconomic framework statement. The aforesaid document presented because is mandated by which one? FRBM. Who is the person? NK Singh. Okay, so this is all. Whatever the smaller things, if I couldn't complete anything, tomorrow we'll discuss and other things. Okay. Do you have any doubts? Deputy chairman. No. President will choose the person. Then, any other questions? We'll meet tomorrow.